Just going to throw on the washers. I'll probably have one kicking around on the desk here if I dropped one. And just sort of spin them on. Okay. These don't need to be mega tight. That's it. Okay. Starting to look like actually look like a pedal now. Now, again, I realize a lot of this isn't applicable to what you're doing. I also realize a lot of this is repetitive and boring, but on almost every joint in here, there's a little different technique that we're doing. There's a different little trick, you know, the different little way of doing things. So, I don't know, maybe somebody's finding this useful and helpful. I hope so. I hope so. This guy's got to go to here. Okay, and he's got to come in from underneath. So again, I'll just snip them off. I'm being very careful not to stress that joint. Okay, cut off a good amount here. Strip off a good amount. Give it just a little bit of a bend, and up from underneath the board. Okay. I'm going to make sure that this actually stays down. I don't want that. I don't want the insulation getting into that joint. Right? So I gave it a little bend to make sure that it's actually staying down. That insulation, maybe you can't see it, but I can. The insulation is not all the way up against the board. It's actually below the board. But I can see it. Okay? And same as always. Exactly the same way. Solder bridge. Flow from the other side. That's it. Before I forget, I'm going to trim some of these. This particular one here is really long. I'm going to trim that. Okay. That's nice. Next we need to run, now we're back to here, we need to run a ground wire from that lug to here, and then from here to there. Okay? Again, we're going to make really good use of the tape to make our life easy. At least I hope we are. Okay, cut it a little bit long. I'm going to just quickly size all this. Okay, it's going to fit about like that. And then I'm going to make a little cut here. Strip off more than you think you need, because that insulation cannot intrude into that joint. Can you, okay, you can see, I hold that there. You can see that if I adjust this correctly, that I'm going to have no insulation in the joint here. Let me slip that through. It's a little bit of a tight fit there. You can see there's going to be no insulation there, and there will, now see, there's going to be some insulation here, so I need to strip that a little bit more. You always need to strip it more than you think. Okay. Like I said, it doesn't hurt to strip it too much. What I'm going to do is stick it through there, stick it through here. Now that I'm confident that I got everything right, take my trusty little pliers to grab my wire there. Again, trying to pre-bend everything I can before soldering anything. hiding me just a little bit because I can't really see what I'm doing, unfortunately. Because this looks really bright on camera, but it's actually quite dark in here right now, and everything's sort of at an odd angle. So, okay, that's not strictly the most perfect, beautiful thing I've ever done. You know, I just don't like that. We're gonna do that over. Yeah, that just started off bad and it ended up bad. All right. Sometimes you just have to do over. That's it. Okay. I'm gonna not talk this time. I'm gonna not try to show you what I'm doing. You've already seen what I'm doing. I'm just gonna do it now. I'll show you the end result. And I need another one that's eventually going to go from here to there. From here to there, okay? We'll go from that lug to there. So again, I'm going to cut it long. This time I'm going to strip off a lot more than I think I need. I'm going to put that down like that. And a little piece of tape to hold it in place. Okay. There we go. And we'll wrap that around. Okay, very good. Now, simply solder it. Same as always, make a little bridge and flow the solder in. Okay, here we go. This time the 2 wires. It takes a little bit longer, takes a little more doing to do it right, but not a big deal. Okay, we got it. Solder joints look good. I'm going to run this to there. I'm going to guesstimate about how much length I need. Again, try not to stress that joint too much. Strip off a little more than I think I need. Sort of just stick it in there. Okay, stick it in and give it a little bend, hold everything in place. And this one here I'm really not going to be able to see from the back side, but you know, we're going to be able to tell if it's flowed well. And anyhow, because it's wire, it's going to flow well anyway because of all the strands and everything else. You know, solder just wants to flow up wire, so it's almost never an issue. I'm going to finish soldering this joint here now. Now I can finally do this joint. Come from the back, solder bridge, or from the front, and then flow from the back. Okay? Very nice. Now I want to run, this is actually the ground for my LED. Okay. Okay, that's going to go here. It's going to go about there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in like this, loop bend, a little bit more. There we go. Figure about where I want it. Once again, this goes much faster when you're not trying to show. I will stick that in there. I'll stick that in here. And I'm going to solder this side first. And the reason I'm going to do that side first is that will help hold the other side in place. Okay? And now you can see I'm actually holding it with my finger a little bit. You can actually hold the wire with your finger just a little bit to keep it where you want it. You're going to have to go quick because this heats up fast and you'll burn your finger. Okay? Now I can kind of see. And you want this up just a little bit. Didn't have to be quite that long. It could have been just a little bit shorter, but that's fine. Just going to want it out of the way there. You know what? I'm just going to make it shorter. So this will actually give me a good opportunity to show you a little bit of rework and the soldering braid. You can see what I did. I just heated it up and I pulled out the wire. I'm not going to reuse that wire. To use the desoldering braid, I have a little bit of solder in that hole now. I'm going to put the desoldering braid where I want to desolder, and then I'm actually going to come in on top of the braid. Okay? And as that heats up, that will suck the solder out of that hole. Okay? Goes into the braid. Now I have a nice clean hole. Now if this had taken a lot of braid and a lot of time, there's actually some flux in the braid and it'll make a mess. You get all black and crispy and you're going to have to redo it. Right? And again, I'm not going to talk this time, I'm just going to do it. And every time I talk, I'm kind of like screwing myself up here. Leaving myself a lot of distance there because I need enough to go through and I also need enough to sneak a soldering iron in and solder it. So I need more length than you might think on the strip. Okay. Very nice. That's what I want to see. I apologize for the boo-boos, but what happened there? Apologize for the boo-boos, but it's tough to do this and talk at the same time. There you go. Sneak in underneath that wire. Got to be very careful not to actually burn the wire. You can burn the wire. And I'm going to be redoing that. You don't want to do that. Okay. Just a couple more and we're practically done here. Not bad. I need a ground wire from this lug. From that lug to there. Same thing. Cut me a long piece. Strip off. Long piece. Stick it in. Hold it down with tape. Down with some tape. Okay. Bend it over. This time I am going to cut that off just a little bit. It's a little excessively long, doesn't look very nice. And sort of get this where he's going to go. Cut him. Okay. Strip him. Good long piece of metal. Stick them in the hole. Give it a little bend to hold them there. And that's it. Now we solder. Okay, so speeding up a little bit here, of course. Even I'm getting bored. And always solder bridge, feed from the other side. Solder bridge, feed from the other side. Okay, nice joints. Nice, clean, non-globular joints. Okay. Don't need him anymore. At least not for just a second. One more. It's got to come from here to there. Here to there. Okay. A nice long piece. Another strip. It'll come about like this. See how convenient this tape makes everything. And you say, oh my god, he's building this masking tape. Oh, you know what? It really works well. Coming around. Okay. Sort of guesstimate where it's got to go. You can get good at it after a while, just sort of guessing where you have to cut things to get them to the right length. This one might melt. It might melt because it's going to be a sharp bend. We'll see. If it starts to melt, you'll have a chance to see me sort of fix it. I just want to move. You see how that's kind of getting really close to the insulation there? Can you see that? It's getting really close to the insulation. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to come in with a little screwdriver. I can't get pliers in there. It's not enough room. I'm going to bend them away a little bit, that's all. I'm really anal about that. I am so anal about that. Okay, see how it's starting to come out a little bit? Just touching back. It even looks fine. And this is really awkward to do from this position. I would normally move this, but then you won't be able to see what I'm doing. Oh, you actually can't see what I'm doing anyway. Okay, so maybe you can... I'll just take my word for it. You're doing the same exact thing. Solder bridge and flow from the other side. Okay. And that's what we have. I'm going to shake this out. There's a bunch of insulation in there. Yeah, that's what we have. You know, it's not I'm not going to pretend that this is some sort of amazing work of art, but I do think it is pretty neat. Things are pretty neat. Just a couple more things we have to do. This is the pain in the butt part because the wires are so short. What I have to do is run a switch. Run wires from here to the switch. I have to install the switch. Like I said, I sort of left it out until the very last part. Because it sort of just gets in the way. Okay. This is a short toggle switch. It's kind of cool. Normally the toggle switch is really tall, but this is nice and short. Okay. So I just sort of guesstimate about the height that I need that out. I'm usually pretty good at getting it pretty close. That looks good. You just need just enough to come through here so that you can get the threads engaged and have maybe just a little bit of thread sticking out the top. That looks nice. So again, it's a cosmetic thing. Well, actually it's a little more than a cosmetic thing because if you make it too tall, then it just gets in the way. And obviously if you make it too short, it doesn't hold, right? So there's a little bit of a sweet spot there. The proper driver for this particular switch is a 5/16. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to hold it with pliers from the back like this. I'm going to monitor it to make sure I'm keeping it straight. I'll just come in from the front. Now this switch here, if you're going to break anything in the box, it's probably these little toggle switches if you overdo the tightening on them. They're really fragile. Easy to break. Once they're in, they're fine, but you can easily break them installing them. Okay, you don't want to make them too tight. You don't don't want to stress them too much from the back. Actually, when I'm done, I'll give it a little wiggle to make sure that I haven't loosened it at all. Actually, this is not quite straight. Fix it just a little bit. Every now and then, if I have to undo this and redo it a couple of times, the switch will just loosen up. That means the switch goes in the trash. That's how it is. I'm not going to risk the reliability of one of my boards. You see what I did there? I actually just did what I said I just stressed it too much. I could feel it going. You know, that doesn't happen very often. It happens maybe. It really doesn't happen very often. But of course, it's going to happen when I'm on camera. But whatever. We just grab another switch. That's all. Every now and then. I think I've done that maybe 4 times in my life. So you do want to be careful. You don't want to over tighten them. You don't want to put them in and take them out and put them in and take them out. You know, they're just not. They're small switches. You know, they're not. Quite as sturdy as they can be, but they do need to be tight enough so they don't move and come apart. That's the same. Okay, that's good. That felt good. That's straight. It's nice and tight. We're good. Okay. Zoom in. Okay, so what do we do with this guy here? Yeah, this particular switch is a bundle of trouble, I'm afraid. Okay. First thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut several lengths of wire that are a little bit longer than I need. Alright. And the way this particular wiring goes, and this isn't a mistake, it's just you know, you have to make a compromise somewhere sometimes, and instead of compromising the layout of the board, compromise the layout of the switch. The top one actually goes to the center, the middle one goes to the end, and then this one is just straight. This one goes here. A couple of ways you can do this. You can come straight. Because of where this is in the circuit, we really don't want wires that are too long. If you try to come straight, it's just very hard to do. So we are going to allow these wires to get just a little bit long, not real long. I'm going to try to keep them as short as we can, but we're going to allow them to get just a little long. I'm sort of going to come in like this, make a little bend here, and go where he belongs. Okay, we're actually going to do the middle one first. And for the bend, I'm just going to use these guys here. Okay, I'm make a little. Get these out of my hand. I'm going to make a little bend. Make another little bend. Okay, I got something like this going on. Strip. Okay. Strip. Okay. Cut. Strip. Again, sometimes this will take a couple of tries. Can't do everything perfectly the first time, not 100% of the time, but the important part is that if you get it wrong, just take the extra minute that it's going to take to redo it. That's all. You know, nobody's perfect, but that doesn't mean that your work can't be great. You just have to redo it sometimes. Okay? See that? Come in, solder this side first. Again, because it'll make it easier for the other side to stay in place. I'm going to have to move this just a little bit. It's fine. I'm not moving it excessively, so there isn't excessive stress on that joint. That's perfectly acceptable. Okay. If this insulation melts just a little bit, that's perfectly acceptable. Didn't, but sometimes it does, just a little bit. Not the end of the world. We found it right here. Okay. Same here. You could also just make these bends by hand if you want to. Just don't make sharp bends, you know. Try to keep them somewhat radiused. Okay, just sort of eyeballing where I think these go. You need to strip more than you think you need, because you need room for the soldering iron to get in there. Try to route it. Again, I'm going to be very anal about insulation rubbing up against the metal. Extremely anal about that. I'm sure there is occasionally a missed one. It's usually fine, you know. It's not like we're making not like we're wiring in an airplane where there's tons of vibration around, but it's just good practice. If you could avoid it, avoid it. And 90% of the time you could avoid it, so why not? Okay. And then the last one. Now, you can see that you can't get this board back out without desoldering things, okay? I design my stuff to work. Okay, this isn't designed to come in and out and get repaired and modified and this and that. It's designed to go in, and it's designed to stay sealed up and in place more or less forever. All right, not really designing this to work on it. If I do need to make a repair, yeah, okay, fine. I have to desolder a couple of things. It's really not that big of a deal. You know, if you can build it once, you can build it twice, whatever. But being able to remove it or work on it, or that does not enter my thinking whatsoever when I'm making these. I just try to, I design them to be built and to stay shut forever, except to replace a battery. So I'm sure somebody is wondering about that. Ooh, how does he get the board back out? Well, I don't take the board back out. Try not to take the board back out, and if I ever had to, okay, fine. So I have to desolder a couple of things. It's really not the end of the world. Not that big a deal. So I don't worry about it. Let's pick that up just a little bit. See that started to sort of melt just a little bit. It's because of the bend. It's because of the bend. It makes it susceptible to that. Okay. For all intents and purposes, this is finished. I still have to add a chip. I still have to add the battery and the a little piece of foam there. I'm going to do that right now. But this is pretty much